Hello, English 113 class. This is your instructor again, Dr. MHohner here with another video for you. It's been a couple weeks since I've recorded a video, so I'm glad to be talking to you again. I always feel a little bit more connected to my online students when I record these videos, so I enjoy doing them, and I'm glad to have a reason to do it again. And along those lines, even though it's an online class, I always look forward to the opportunity to get to know my students better if I can. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can email me or Canvas message me, and I can answer your questions that way. If you want to talk through things more, I think that's great because then we have an opportunity to get to know each other more. So you can set up an appointment for Zoom with me over email or Canvas Messenger, or we can even set up an in-person appointment because I do have an office here on campus, and if you're ever here for other classes, maybe you take other classes in person or you have some reason to come to campus, we could set that up too. So just wanted to mention that at the start of this video. Today in this video, we're going to be talking about the process of going from the rough draft of the paper to the final draft. And I want to say right at the start that we'll cover that in two stages. One is the peer review, which is your feedback from classmates, and then two is your feedback from me. First, before we get into the technical steps of how to do the peer review, first, I want to just explain writing as a process. So we're not just writing a paper, turning it in, and then me giving you a grade on that final product. This class, and aiming to help you improve your written communication skills, is not aimed at just getting products, like you producing or composing products. It's about learning the processes that help you have success with written communication, both now and in the future. So we're going to treat writing in this class as a process. You will turn in a final draft, but I'm not just grading or evaluating that final product. I'm grading and evaluating the process that leads up to it. With writing, the process involves two things. One is multiple drafts. So you don't just write the paper in one go. You do a rough draft and a final draft, maybe even other drafts before that. And then two is you get feedback from others on those drafts, because even though we tend to do writing on our own, we are always writing for an audience. So we have to try to anticipate how that audience might view our writing, because they are often the ones who measure if we've achieved our goal or not, because we're writing to them. And so we need an audience for the drafting process. So in comes peer review then. So when I grade your papers, I'm not just thinking about what does the final draft look like. I'm thinking about what was the rough draft like? How has the final draft shown improvement from the rough draft? Did the student take feedback and incorporate feedback to make those improvements? So those are the kinds of things I'm looking at. So that's my statement on why we look at it as a process. Now let's talk about more the nuts and bolts, the mechanics of it. How do you do the peer review? So the peer review is really very simple. If you go to Canvas and you go to modules and you go to modules 5 and 6, you'll see the assignment pages for both the rough draft and the final draft. Click on the rough draft page. And I've split it into two sections. Section 2 is the actual assignment instructions, which I'm sure you've read if you've turned in your assignment. And then Section 1 is all the mechanics of how to submit the peer review. So that's what we're going to focus on now, is Section 1 of the rough draft page. So ideally, at this point you're watching this video, you've already submitted your rough draft. If you haven't, please email me and then get it in as soon as possible. And we'll coordinate over email what to do if you miss the deadline. But please email me as soon as possible if you haven't turned it in. So if you have turned it in, what will have happened earlier today is Canvas will have assigned you 3 peer review partners. So if you go to that page, the rough draft assignment page, and look at the top of it, you should see 3 names over in the right-hand side of the page. And those are the people who you need to review their papers. And so all you have to do is click on their name and it'll take you to their paper. Then you can view their paper And there's a few ways you can make feedback. You can, if you're viewing their paper, there'll be some buttons at the top. There's a little bubble. If you click that, you can drag the bubble anywhere you want on their paper, click, and then write a comment right there. So if you want to say, for example, make a comment on the person's thesis statement, you can click on that bubble and then put it right next to their thesis statement, click there, and then write. So that's one way to do it. There's also a comment box to the side. You can write in that box. You can do a combination of both those things. You can even download their paper and write feedback on their paper and then upload it. That's a little more involved, but it's all your preference. So those are the 3 ways to do that. And just one of those is fine, or any combination of those is fine as well. If you're wondering what type of feedback to give the people you're assigned, there's a peer review guidelines document attached to that assignment page. Just click on that. It gives you lots of suggestions of the type of feedback to give. There's, I think, 7 or 8 different types of suggestions for comments you can give your fellow students there. You don't have to do all of those. My suggestion would be to do about 3 or 4, but take the time and do as many as you want. So my suggestion is to take about half an hour per paper, so that you can really give the person some good in-depth feedback. Giving them compliments is great, but you also want to be sure to give feedback. So how can they improve? And if you don't know how they can improve, you feel like, oh, this is just a really good paper, that's where that document comes in. Look at it, and if you read that document, I think you'll find that they probably need help with at least one of my suggestions on there. So that's the peer review. If you're having trouble seeing their names, in this section of the assignment sheet, section 1, I have bolded the phrase "to access the peer review." Read there, and I have some troubleshooting steps. Basically, you need to make sure you're accessing Canvas through a web browser. You can't do it through the Canvas app. Ideally, you would do it on a computer or a laptop or tablet. If you must do it on your phone, I don't recommend that. You got to go into a web browser, into Safari or Chrome or Edge or Firefox. It can't be the Canvas app. And we do have laptops you can check out on campus. And then you must click on it from the modules page. You can't click on it from your dashboard or your feedback section. For whatever reason, the peer review just won't show up if you do that. So those are the troubleshooting steps. If you try both of those troubleshooting steps and you're sure you're accessing it correctly and you still don't see the names, reach out to me, I'll help you. And you had to turn it in, I believe, before 10 a.m. today to get those partners. If you turn it in after that, again, email me. We'll work that out. I can manually assign you some partners. So that's the peer review. The only other thing I would have mentioned in this video is feedback from me. So I'm going to start grading your papers today. And it shouldn't take me too long because we have a relatively small class. So I should be able to get you that feedback by midweek at latest. And just use my feedback to improve for the final draft. It's that simple and straightforward. If you have any questions about my feedback, again, email me. Here's this last really important thing. When you turn in your final draft on Sunday or before then, but that's when it's due. When you turn in your final draft, be sure to highlight in yellow or whatever color you want. Yellow is easiest to see. Highlight the changes you've made so that next week, a week from now, when I grade your final drafts, I can look real quickly and see what changes you've made and not have to kind of hunt around and try to remember what's different from the previous draft. That also will show you how much you've changed the paper, which is important because I'm not just evaluating that final product, like I said, I'm evaluating the process. So if you haven't done much, if you haven't made many changes, that might be kind of something to draw your attention to that when you highlight those changes before turning it in, and maybe you want to do a little bit more. So that's what I have for you today. Again, questions on anything, please reach out to me. I'm really looking forward to reading your papers. I hope you have a great week. Take care.